Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare and conquer your upcoming hike, trek or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for, let's get into today's episode. So today we are talking about how to train for a hike, trek or mountain adventure over the long term. Now the reason why I'm talking about this today is I have found myself more or less through all my podcasts and all the information I put out, talking about shorter term preparation for one of these significant adventures. So what you should be doing if you have 4 months, 5 months, 8 weeks, 6 weeks to prepare for a significant venture in your sights. And the reason behind that is probably the majority of people who reach out to me for help have these timeframes in mind. And they've basically got the deadline coming up, they're getting a little bit stressed out, and they're like, I need to kick myself into action, actually get myself ready. But what if you have 18 months to prepare for something, or 2 years, or 2.5 years? Should you be doing to get yourself ready? Because obviously following all the advice that I've been talking about in this shorter term preparation, it's not going to be outrageously practical for you to try and maintain that over 18 months. And I have actually had quite a few people recently reach out to me, people who dreamed of doing the PCT in 2020, or people who are dreaming of doing Everest Base Camp in 2021. So today I just want to spend a bit of time talking about how you can prepare over the long term. What's a relatively effective strategy that can keep you progressing in your fitness over this time so you can get fit, strong and resilient for this adventure, but you can also maintain over the long term, which isn't going to burn you out, isn't going to get you absolutely bored as anything. It's going to keep you sort of happy throughout this time. So the good news is when it comes to long-term preparation, longer is almost always better. And the more time you can put around your preparation, the better. The literal only drawback for this is motivation. And sometimes motivation can be tough to maintain for long periods of time. But aside from that, physiologically, longer is always better. Now, this is for the fact that both aerobic capacity and muscular strength, two of the most important indicators of performance in the hiking and trekking world, don't really have a ceiling on their improvement. Or their ceiling of improvement is so big that most people will never reach it. Now, what this means is you can literally train for years and years and years and still continually improve both of these things, both your aerobic capacity and your muscular strength. Now, this is why you see so many older age endurance athletes who can literally hop on a bike and ride for 100 kilometers, no issues. And this is why you see some of the older blokes in the gym who can, walk into any gym and just deadlift 100 kilos quite happily, even if they haven't trained for a little while. Basically, the more time in years and months you can put behind your training in these aspects of performance, the better. Now, in this, I like to use, when you're preparing and improving these things over the long term, I like to use the analogy of a bank account. Now, when you've got a bank account, there's no real limit to how much you can put in there. It literally depends on how much you can put in. And so when you're training and developing these things, you can sort of imagine I'm depositing fitness into my fitness bank account. So for aerobic capacity, every single cycle I do, every single hike I do, every single swim I do, that's depositing fitness into this aerobic capacity bank account. The same for muscular strength. Every single workout I do that's doing some squats or doing some lunges or something like that in the gym or at home, that's depositing currency into this muscular strength bank account. And so the more you can think about that, just depositing over this long term, the more it's going to help you. Now compare this, whether both of these aspects of performance have a huge ceiling of performance. Compare this to something that's like high intensity interval training or muscular endurance training. These types of trainings have a really low ceiling of improvement. So while they can be really good and they can give you some really great benefits in particular ways for hikers and trekkers, they both tend to reach their maximal benefits for most people after about 6 to 8 weeks, plus or minus a little bit. So what this means is if you're looking at a long-term plan, the majority of your plan and your training is going to be centered around improving aerobic capacity and improving muscular strength. And then either in small doses at a time throughout this long-term plan, or right at the end of your preparation plan, you would focus on those shorter term things. So the high intensity exercise, the muscular endurance training, and all those other fun types of training, which we tend to see in the later stages of preparation. As a broad overview, that is what you want to be doing. And that's where you're going to be getting the best benefits and the most effectiveness out of your training. So now that you know that, how do you actually go about it? Well, as a massive, broadly overarching theme, there's really two ways of going about this. Number one, you can follow a structured plan for this entire time, so this 18 months, these 2 years, or you can follow a more flexible approach. This is the way I like to break it up at least. Now, a structured plan, for the few who love this, is literally going, okay, January or February 2020, I'm going to go on a hike in February 2023. So from now until then, I'm going to do a really, really decent plan. I'm going to know exactly what I'm going to be aiming for in these blocks of training. So from month 1 to 6, 6 to 12, what I'm going to be focusing on, and really, really work that out. Don't have to go on the complete details of it, but you have a pretty structured plan of exactly what you're aiming for and what milestones you're aiming for over that time. Now, some people love this, but in all honesty, the thought of me trying to follow a plan for 2 years makes me a little bit sick. And I'm also going to assume that most people listening to this podcast aren't incredibly interested in this as well, because it is the rare person who can be excited about this long-term structure. And if you really do love this type of thing, more than likely you're some type of other endurance athlete already. So I'm going to just assume most people listening aren't going to be so interested in that. If this is you and you're like, hey, I do want to go about this approach, it is on all honesty, probably easier to reach out to a professional here. For many people, planning this far ahead as a layperson can be a bit daunting, but the majority of strength and conditioning coaches or endurance coaches should be able to put together a solid long-term plan for you here. So if you are in a situation you need help, reach out to a professional, get some help there, and they'll be able to sort you out. So alternatively, if that long-term approach does make you feel a bit gross and you're like, no way is that for me, this is a bit more of a flexible approach, which I like and which I often recommend to people over the long term. So what you're going to do with this flexible approach is you're going to assume that the last 12, 16, or 20 weeks of your preparation, just leading into this big adventure, you are going to go on a structured plan. So you're going to take all the info that I've shared from the previous podcast and from all my other content and turn that into your final months of preparation, and just to hone everything in to get those last bits and pieces to make sure every single week you're getting the most out of your preparation and it's all honed in to peak just before your adventure. But until then, until those last 12, 16, or 20 weeks, depending on what you want, you're going to be a lot more flexible. So you're going to try and fit the training a little bit more around your life. You're going to keep it a little bit more exciting just so you don't burn out. Now, to start with, you want to sort of have a plan out what a minimum week is going to look like for you. So what that means is how many times a week over these 18 months can you dedicate to training? Now, this doesn't mean how many do I want to. This is the minimum number that you know you can do every single week, or do at least 90% of your weeks, because there's always going to be times when holidays pop up, when you get sick and all of that. So this is going to be maybe once, twice, 3 times a week, something like that. But whatever you can really, really be confident that you can do pretty regularly. Now, anything else that you do on top of this, you don't have to fit to this minimum amount. There will be certain times where you can do more and you feel excited and you absolutely love to do it. That's all going to be a bonus, but just lay out a minimum week that you want to do. Now, once you figure this out, you want to lay out the minimum amount of hikes you want to do per month. So if you're a lifelong hiker, you absolutely love it, that's your social life and all of that, you can do planning out or doing a hike every single week wouldn't be too unrealistic. However, if you've got other things going on, there's lots of stuff in your life, if you've got busy weekends, if you've got a young family and all that, maybe it might be a bit more realistic to plan to do 1 hike a month for the next 12 months. And then in your last few months before you leave, you go up to that maybe 2 or 3 times a month as part of your structured plan. But whatever it is, again, you just want to plan out a minimum thing that you're going to commit to, and then anything else extra is going to be a bonus. Now, once you plan that, you just want to write that down and just put it somewhere that you're going to see. So it's on the calendar, on the back of the bathroom door, on your mirror or whatever, just so that's in your face for the next 18 months. And you're like, look, I've committed to this. This is what I'm going to stick with. And just so you can keep that at the top of your mind. Now we want to sort of plan out how you're going to go about your training. So for your hiking, let's just start with, a really, really good way of going about this is just planning out a few sort of shorter term goals or destination hikes that you want to achieve over the next 18 months. So it might be every 3 months, you've got a really, really nice picturesque hike that you sort of want to be able to go out and do. So it might be something that's a little bit further away. So it might be in a state, it might be a couple of hours driving, it might just be a local trail, which is a little bit more challenging. And you basically just want to schedule them in, a few throughout the year, just so you've got these shorter term goals that you're going to aim for. And then from there, you're just going to basically plan out all your other months that you're training and just sort of schedule in a few easier hikes, which slowly builds up distance over time. Now, the only key here is just make sure you're not shooting all over the shop with distances. Make sure you are slowly, gradually building, because as we said so many times in this podcast before, a slow, gradual build is so important for injury prevention. But putting out those shorter term goals and those destination hikes can just give you something to aim for. Just make sure you're staying on top of your hiking month to month. And you just sort of follow that plan that you've been doing, that you committed to, 1 hike a month, 2 hikes a month or whatever, and just build that up as you go. So pretty straightforward there. You don't need to really dive too much more into that. Now, for your strength, this is, if you do have the opportunity to train for a long period of time, this is so valuable for your strength. And as we said, strength is amazing for injury prevention, for movement efficiency, and for elevation, and a million other things. So what I'd highly recommend doing, if you're not 100% confident with your strength and you've got this long time to get yourself ready, go and see a personal trainer or a strength and conditioning coach, at the very least for like 2 or 3 sessions. Learn how to do a squat and a deadlift safely. Learn how to do a single leg deadlift, just so you can sort of master these exercises early on in your preparation and you can use them over the long term. Then what you're going to do is get a program. So whether you take one of the programs that I do online, whether you get one from a trainer, whether you create your own, and you're going to follow this and slowly build this up. So you're going to do the same workout for 4 weeks in a row. And each week you do, you're either going to increase the difficulty, so you increase the weights you're doing, or increase the time that it takes to do each repetition, or add a little pause, or one of the dozen other things you can do to improve your make exercise more difficult. But whatever you're going to do, you're going to do the same workout for 4 weeks. Every 4 weeks, you're going to either progress an exercise, so make it a little bit more difficult. So, for example, if you're doing a split squats or a stationary lunge, you might turn that into a reverse lunge. Or if you're doing a step up, you might turn that into a lateral step up, or just a little change to make it slightly more difficult. Or alternatively, you're going to drop the amount of repetitions you're going to do, and you're going to increase the weight slightly. So you might do 4 weeks at 10 repetitions, and you might be doing 10 kilos a dumbbell for a goblet squat. And then the next 4 weeks, you might do 8 repetitions, but you might go up to a 14 kilo goblet squat. And then the next 4 weeks, you might go down at 6 repetitions, but you might go up to a 22 kilo goblet squat. Now, those little changes there and that change in repetitions is going to be amazing for your strength development. And it's a really, really good way of improving things over the long term. Really, really simple. And then what you're going to do from there, every 12 weeks, you're going to get a brand new program. So you're either going to create your own, you're either going to go to another personal trainer and say, I want another 12-week program. You're either going to reach out to me or go to my website and just say, for 12 weeks, I want another program. And then you can sort of take that away again, and slowly 4 weeks, change the exercise or change the reps and break it up like that. It's a pretty simple way of going about it. If you're not 100% confident about that, just again, talk to a professional, reach out to me. We can talk you through it and sort of give you a bit of structure there. But long-term strength progression is amazing. Now, for your conditioning, you want to get a little bit more exciting here. So generally, conditioning sessions, might be stair intervals, might be heel intervals, might be loaded pack walking in the shorter term preparation. Over the longer term, we want to spread this out a little bit. And conditioning can get a little bit dull and get a little bit boring, get a little bit monotonous. So we want to make this as exciting as you can. So what I want you to do is you're basically going to list out every single type of exercise that you have access to, that you can, number 1, you enjoy, number 2, that you can maintain for a long period of time, and number 3, that is slightly strenuous. So examples here: hiking, walking, gym cardio machines like the treadmill, like the elliptical, like the stationary cycle, whatever, cycling outside, swimming, kayaking, paddleboarding, surfing, tennis, whatever. Like, list off every single thing that you have access to and that you enjoy. And what you're going to do here is you're literally just going to alternate between these different types of cardio as you go through week to week. So you might not repeat the same type of cardio for 8 weeks or for 10 weeks, and you're just going to be doing a different thing every single time. And what you're basically doing is just adding to that bank account of your aerobic capacity, depositing, but doing it in a way that's a lot more exciting, a lot more interesting, and keeps you sort of motivated. And then as you get to your structured program further down the line, you'd probably choose like a hill interval session or a stair interval session or a muscular endurance workout or something, and repeat that 3 to 4 weeks at a time and progress that. But over the long term, keeping things flexible and keeping things exciting is probably the main things you want to look for. And that's about it, really. That's sort of something a really, really simple plan that you could follow for 12 months, for 16 months, for 18 months, for 2 years. It'll keep things relatively fresh. It'll continually keep improving your aerobic capacity, improving your strength, and improving a bunch of other aspects of fitness. And then when you do get a bit closer to your adventure, so you're 12, 16, 20 weeks out, then you might put into a bit more of a structured plan around the stuff that we've talked about previously. So if you do have long-term preparation, just think long-term is always good. Just keep on depositing into that bank account as much as you can. Keep it interesting, keep it flexible, and it will get you there in the end. So today, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope you have gotten a little bit out of it. If there is anyone that you know who has a trike in the long-term future, whether it's 12 months or 2 years away, I would absolutely love if you could share this episode with them today. Hopefully they'll get some good ideas about their preparation. Hopefully it'll help get their, planning in that long-term mindset, and hopefully it'll get them on the right track to really, really tick off this amazing goal, whatever they've set themselves. So I appreciate you guys listening today. If you have any questions, reach out to me. But if not, I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye.